Hello there. Welcome to Liberal Buzz Show. My name is Denise Dory, and I'm your host. Now tonight, my guest is going to be Brent Turner from cavous.org, and we're going to talk about open source voting, because what happens when you vote? Okay, let's talk about this. I wore my Rey Mysterio t-shirt, and it's kind of to express how complex codes are mysterious, and they're going to bully us into thinking that it's okay for them to only be for Microsoft and Diebold to be the only ones that know how to unlock those codes so that we can count our votes properly. So you can vote all you want, but if you don't have the votes counted properly, it's not going to work. And even paper ballots end up in the bay. So anyway. Oracle and Microsoft are holding elections hostage. Your votes are only as good as the secret intellectual Microsoft vote machine codes allow. From California Association of Voting official, my guest Brent Turner, and I guess you might have seen him on my show before. That's my guest Brent Turner here. I'll get his picture up for you. Okay. There he is. That's Brent. So he'll be calling it around 6:03. So let me do the intro for you so I can bring you up to speed, because the San Francisco Board of Elections has decided to start putting $2.3 million into open source, publicly owned voting voting systems. So that's great. Now, election results are fair, only as fair as the voting machines allow, and with no oversight, and the code being way too complex for even a whole room full of software engineers to decipher, even if they can get close enough to it, isn't fair. So, I mean, the way it is now, it could get us a Trump or a Cruz, President Trump or Cruz. The voter machine market is run by Diebold using Microsoft codes. They ain't sharing it, and you need to. So Clinton and Sanders both favor open source voting software. Now the Bernie Sanders campaign is suspicious of Microsoft, very suspicious of Microsoft's role in the Iowa caucus last Tuesday. Microsoft provided the software free. The software that we don't know how to crack it. So, hell, I can't even buy a camera and use it on the Windows 10 anymore, because it's too proprietary, and that's what when Microsoft has really gotten more and more proprietary lately. So, last year, the Democrats and the GOP, both, it's bipartisan, this voter software. They in Iowa announced a new app for both parties. They announced it last year. The precinct chairmen report their election results to the headquarters, and both parties trust Microsoft enough to use a platform built on Microsoft tech and stored in Microsoft Cloud, claiming security, accuracy, and speed. Well, we don't, and they want us to, just trust us. Yeah. And they want us to trust an app vital to democracy without seeing it. And so are the Iowa Democrats and Republicans naive, or did they drink the Kool-Aid, by trusting Microsoft's free voting software? And now we've got New Hampshire going on. That's next, and they'll be running open source front end, but then the back end is going to be the same old proprietary software that's going to be, business as usual, poisoning the well in New Hampshire. So the breaking news we've got, I'll get to it now. I think that's my guest. Brent. Is that you, Brent?
Yes, it is, Denise.
Oh, fantastic. Good to hear from you. Thanks for calling.
Oh, you're more than welcome. We're in direct competition with the Democratic candidates tonight.
We are. But they're going to show this over and over every day for 2 weeks. So this
Oh,
show,
beautiful.
yes.
Hey, I just wanted to let you feel my loyalty by calling in exactly on time regardless.
You most certainly did. I'm thrilled. You just thrilled me to death. You just really did.
Thank you.
I'll have to buy you dinner.
Hey, beautiful.
So,
Are we live?
yes, we are.
Okay.
Bring us up to speed. Now, you are from. Tell the viewers you're from the. You're.
My association?
Yeah, from cavo.us.org is your website.
That's right. That's California Association of Voting Officials.
Yes, I introduced you earlier.
Oh.
So, as a California associate, yeah, that's right. Okay, I had it right in the beginning. Okay, so now bring us up to speed with San Francisco
Well,
Department of Elections.
as you know, Denise, we've been working for over a decade on this issue of making sure that the election systems are functioning with proper security, which is really a software issue. Currently, the systems utilize a Microsoft platform with vendor-owned code, and the Secretary of State, Deborah Bowen, previous to Alex Padilla, her top-to-bottom review was scathing and conclusive regarding the lack of appropriate security with the current voting systems in the United States.
Yeah.
So our work has been to provide solution to that, specifically general public license open source software to replace the software code that is put together by the vendors. And we want Microsoft out of the equation as well. So in the last week, we've managed to get into the budget through the Department of Elections in San Francisco, and they're funding it to the tune of $2.3 million for the first year, with the idea being if we can put a system together that would approximately run around $6 million, that would put San Francisco in a position of having a certified system, and they would no longer have to spend $15 million every few years, as right now they're in a vendor trap where every few years they have to spend, upwards of $15 million for substandard systems. So this would be a publicly owned system that we could share with other counties, and other counties across the country could actually participate financially. So our initial cost of $6 million may be reduced, but even at $6 million, it's saving $9 million in its first cycle. And of course, it's just not a financial issue. It's also the sanctity of the vote count to make sure democracy is functioning properly. San Francisco would lead the state and the country toward these better systems.
Yeah, I understand there's no open source voting in California, so we would say that would set a precedent for us. And for once, I can thank Scott Wiener for something. Yay.
That's right. Scott is a good guy on this. He's smart on it.
Yeah.
And then also Jane Kim and London Breed and of course the regulars Eric Marr and John Avalos.
The progressives.
They're all smart on this. Mark Farrell as well. On and on. I think we're at an 11-0 on the board. Nobody wants to be the one that stood in the way of this benefit to democracy. But now, of course, we're going to have to clear some hurdles with MayorLee to make sure he doesn't cut it out of his budget.
Uh-oh. Okay, and you think that you expect anything dodgy coming out of that?
Well, of course, our role is to trust nothing. And so we will be at the ready to fight the battle right until we see these systems put together and deployed out into the field that's our position. Is we trust, but we verify everything.
Absolutely. Well, there's already vendors claiming that there's open source voting software, and then it turns out to be proprietary.
That's correct. That's what they're doing in, I believe that's the state of the project in Travis County, Texas, as Microsoft is a partner there. And then also Los Angeles County is doing open source, but they won't address their licensing issue. And our position is it must be the highest standard, which is general public license, called GPL, open source. That what protects against shenanigans in the open source environment. And there are shills out there for Microsoft that would like to create nouveau licenses that would take us down the slippery slope to a proprietary system all over again. So we have to watchdog everything constantly.
So now, didn't the Department of Justice try to fix it by enforcing antitrust laws?
The Department of Justice came in with antitrust issues. That was regarding the too big to fail ES&S. There's only a few vendors in the marketplace, and they've gobbled up other companies. So Diebold and Premier is now Dominion, and so that only leaves Dominion, ES&S, and Hart InterCivic. So there's just a few vendors, which is really inappropriate. Of course, open source and publicly owned systems will break up that situation as well.
Now, didn't the government test the current? They call for tests of the current systems, and they concluded that the system is unacceptably deficient. And I mean, doesn't it go back to 2007 or something? The old software go back to the Kerry election.
This software has been in place since the early 2000s. After the Hanging Chad episode, there was a 4.5 billion with a B Help America Vote Act that bought the initial round of these electronic systems, and since then we've been using the same basic systems. The 2007 mark that you're talking about was what I mentioned, the Secretary of State Bowen's top to bottom review. That's been one government study. There's been numerous, the Everest study out of Ohio, I believe, and other studies that have all concluded the same situation, that it's just unacceptable from a security perspective. These systems can be hacked and manipulated. The fact is, we don't need to find the smoking gun to say that that is what's happening. It's just the fact that they're so poorly made should render them inappropriate for use.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, Deborah Bowen, she stopped talking about it after making open source her platform, and she may have drank the Kool-Aid, I suppose, at one time. Yeah.
Right. We know she didn't feel well at a certain point within her administration, and it was horrible that none of her staff really brought that into the light and got her, situated. But regardless, I want to believe that she has a good heart. That being said, I don't know, and I know she was being courted by the types of open source software makers that we don't appreciate. In other words, the ones that are not interested in working with the rest of the open source community and are not interested in maintaining the high ground of general public license.
Mm-hmm. Well, anything the vendors can do, we could do better, can't we?
Yes, it's a work in progress, and it takes a little pioneering and some political will. But I think San Francisco's got it. I believe President Obama has got it. And I think some of the current presidential candidates understand it. It's just a matter of getting it implemented at the county level, and San Francisco County seems to be positioned to show that leadership, which is fantastic. But we have to watchdog it going through the process.
Well, now Hillary and Sanders both are in favor of open source, and they're starting to see the importance of it as well. But actually, didn't Hillary won that election by a razor thin margin, where they had the open source software wasn't being used, and you know, both parties had complete confidence in that in Microsoft, and Microsoft actually gave money to Hillary at a few times over the years. So that just, you know, so I think Bernie Sanders thinks it's a bit suspicious.
Yes, he made a funny statement that he doesn't trust Microsoft because they had a application that was in play for transmission of information, and he called that into question. Now in New Hampshire, the primary coming up, interestingly, one of our board members has his system. Dr. Gilbert has his Prime 3 system in place on the front end for the voter interface in New Hampshire, but we don't have the tabulation end of it in place. So basically they're going to be utilizing some open source components, but unfortunately they're still in the position of running the ballots through a secret software tabulation system. So that isn't what we're talking about. San Francisco really could be the first place to do it properly up to our security standards in the United States.
Well, we really have a chance to do this right, don't we? But then it's all up to Ed Lee now. So what can the audience do to help convince Ed Lee? You know, besides, well, you know, he always puts cops in front of his door and locks it whenever he sees us coming, because that happened in Mission Moratorium, and you know that. So we've got to convince him. And is it just up to Ed Lee? Or isn't there? It's just him and just the mayor, huh? Boy.
Yeah, we have hope that he's going to do the right thing. Like I said, this thing has enough spotlight on it that I don't think anybody wants to be known as the person that derailed the effort for proper election systems in the United States now that we're this close. That being said, I think the audience can write letters to MayorLee saying, "Dear MayorLee, please move forward with the budgeting for open source election systems. Democracy depends on it. Let's prioritize this as it deserves and lead the country."
Well, it's not like he's trying to get reelected as mayor or anything.
Right. I think he's going to do the right thing, but we're going to be vigilant in keeping the pressure there as much as possible so that we get the open source system developed right here in the best place for it, San Francisco County, and then the rest of the state will follow and the rest of the country will follow, which will be a great day I hope I live to see.
Yes, me too. Yeah, exactly. San Francisco is led a lot of the world on a lot of issues, and I hope the world is already doing having more fair elections than we are, and so we're trying to influence the world's elections, and we can't even do our own. So
that's right. So we need to get this done, and it's not rocket science. It's accomplished with a little bit of money and some political will, and I have hope. So I will look forward to getting back with you for further reports, and I really appreciate you paying attention to this issue.
Thank you. Yeah, what about a uniform, a legislation needed to create uniformity?
Well, that's part of the plan is once we develop this system and get it certified, it could lead to uniformity within the state and the country, and that would be ideal to eliminate the patchwork quilt, which is in place right now. So I'm looking forward to that day as well, but we have to go one step at a time. First thing is, let's make sure Ed Lee doesn't cut this out of the budget. If he does, then hopefully the people, if there's even talk of that, will rally in its defense. But right now, if people could send in letters saying, please move forward with this one, and let's not let anything get in its way, because this matters for the free world. We want to make sure the people have the ability to vote their way out of this mess we're in, and get proper leadership to take us to higher ground.
Yeah, that's right, because we could have all the caucuses we want and all the town hall meetings we want, and it's all futile if the election's already been decided by one or two folks that don't really care about us. So yeah.
Yes, it's quite a predicament we're in, but like I say, there's hope, and I will be calling in and visiting you in the near future with more information.
Yeah, thank you for all your hard work at this, and Governor Howard Dean congratulated you, and I do too.
He did. He's another hero of mine, and we've heard from President Obama on this, and I know Senator Sanders understands it, and Hillary does too. So we're just slowly but surely providing some education on point, and I think we're going to get there.
All right, I think we are too. Thanks to you. All right, cheers. Thanks, Brent, and I'll see you on Facebook. Bye bye.
Thank you, dear. Bye bye.